Let's move to the whip around. Well, what are some other games that happened this weekend? Northwestern 24, Wisconsin 10. David Braun is 5-5 with this Northwestern team that was in shambles already to begin with Pat Fitzgerald in there. How does he do it?
Magic. I mean, he also plays in the Big Ten West. Okay, and I'm not going to take anything away from Northwestern. They're over
But
on the
should he
win total.
not?
Was
Should he not get this job?
he absolutely should.
Like I know Northwestern
Yeah,
thinks that they can do better, and there might be some crazy stuff going on in the coaching carousel, but right now it seems like you got a guy that's doing a lot with a little.
yeah. They haven't really lost any games that they shouldn't have lost, and like they've won some games they probably are lucky. Like
They've won 5 games, and 4 of those games were as underdogs. They were underdogs to UTEP, by the way, and they blew them out by 40.
we should have seen right through that, man. UTEP, yeesh. But yeah, no,
Brutal.
this is incredible. To me, yes, this is more about Wisconsin. I'm not saying mailing it in this year. Like they've had injuries, whatever. Luke Fickle will be better in his time at Wisconsin this year, not the year.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be all right. Another shocker. Oklahoma State, them Cowboys. They were not riding this weekend, losing to UCF by 42. John Rich Plumlee had an absolute game. This was, of course, a space game for UCF, so you knew it was going to get a little frisky. The line was under 3. They were baiting you to take it. Uh, Ollie Gordon, 15 rushes for 25 yards? I mean, for one, he fumbled early. Alan Bowman threw a pick early. There's a lot of weird turnovers going on in the first quarter of the game that allowed this game to get out of hand quickly, and just never felt like it was never right for Oklahoma State. This looked a lot like the team that played South Alabama earlier this year. It looked better than that team. UCF just played an amazing game. Offensively, Gus Malzahn was dialed in. He was
Yep.
dialed in. And Oklahoma State just didn't have the batteries, didn't have the juice to keep up.
Yeah, 300 yards rushing and passing for UCF is a clinic. Is a clinic, and like you said, it was weird weather, weird things. Like yeah, but also like credit UCF for coming in and get, like you said, a big win against a legacy Big 12 team, which has not been easy to come by, and that's
Now
impressive.
UCF's 5-5. They got a chance to make a bowl game here, first year in the Big 12, which I think is a good job. That's a good year, especially for these other new Big 12 teams that are not doing so hot. I'm sure BYU has a chance to make a bowl game, but Houston and Cincinnati do not. They do not have a chance. Houston might have had a chance if they'd beaten Cincinnati, but they lost. So good try. But yeah, that shakes things up in the Big 12 because now there's like a 4-way tie for second right now. It's an absolute cluster right now. Oklahoma State at 5-2, Oklahoma at 5-2, Iowa State at 5-2, Kansas State at 5-2. Could have been Kansas at 5-2. They lost to Tech, of course, without Jason Bean and Jalen Daniels, but yeah, kind of a cluster right there. Now Oklahoma State holds tiebreakers over Oklahoma and Kansas State, and they don't hold the tiebreaker over Iowa State, but Iowa State also plays Texas. So, really interesting to see that. If Iowa State pulls one off against Texas, this could be just an absolute wild, wild Big 12 finish here. And we're going to have to go to multiple tiebreakers to figure this one out. So that's exciting. Georgia Southern Marshall. Yeah, we'll talk about that game a little bit. Marshall with the upset. And they moved to 5-5. Georgia Southern moves to 6-4. Why is that big? Because it felt like just a couple weeks ago, Georgia Southern was 3-1 in conference. And because James Madison's not eligible, they thought the Sun Belt East was theirs. It is no longer theirs. Coastal Carolina 5-2, App State 4-2, both ahead of Coastal Carolina, which is at 3-3. Marshall all of a sudden knocking on the door of a bowl game, which not everyone thought. Not everyone thought that this Marshall team has had some struggles this year for sure. But Charles Huff getting the boys together this game, coming back in the fourth quarter to win that game. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, wait, nice to stop the losing streak for Marshall. Like you said, they lost 5 in a row. But yeah, like you said, put them a chance to make a bowl game, which for a lot of these football teams, like people forget with all the media around the drive to the playoff and the playoffs and the Heisman's, whatever. Like winning 6 games, making a bowl game is a big deal to a lot of fan bases, a lot of programs, and a lot of conferences and athletic departments that get a nice check for those bowl games. Like that is an awesome thing, and obviously very happy for the Sun Belt and for Marshall.
Yeah, just really good effort. Speaking of really good efforts, LSU 52, Florida 35. Why am I saying good effort? Well, if you're not a stranger to college football, you probably already know what I'm going to tell you. But Jaden Daniels just had one of the individually greatest statistical games that I've ever seen in my entire life. In my entire life. LSU has 3 losses. Can you still consider this guy for Heisman? I think you can. I think you can.
You have to. There are certain exceptions: Johnny Manziel, Lamar Jackson, Robert Griffin III, where 8-4 teams, 9-3 teams like win the Heisman, and like it is on the back of just a one player who is obviously carrying an offense and a team to victory. LSU defensively not very good. Offensively, yes, they have weapons, but he also accounted for like 600 yards, like that, and he's done it all year.
372 passing yards for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 12 rushes for 234 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns his own. He's the first quarterback in college history to throw for 300 yards and also rush for 200 yards in the same game. That is absurd. That is absolutely absurd.
The only downside for if I had, like, I would not buy it right now. A Jaden Daniels Heisman stock, I think
At plus 650?
I think it's at an all-time high. I think it's at an all-time high right now. I think you should have bought it a couple weeks ago when we talked about it when they played Alabama and they had a chance to make a big game. But like they're playing, like they don't have the marquee games left that some of the other Heisman candidates, a la like Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, all have for their opportunities to win the Heisman Trophy, like get the Heisman moment, because like voters and whatever, like the media goes towards marquee matchups for the championship race, conference championship race, and for playoff races. Like that's unfortunately LSU is no longer in either of those, so it's gonna dock him a little bit. But also like deserving still, like the best player in college football is Jaden Daniels, and he's been that for all year.
Yeah, I think he had the Missouri game too early. Like if the Missouri game happened later, or if they didn't lose to Ole Miss, like I think he would. Which, by the way, he played fantastic in that game. There's not been a game where he has not played fantastic. Of course, he got injured in the 4th quarter of the Alabama game, or whenever that was, early 3rd or late 3rd, whatever that was. But I mean, on the year, he's got 3,100 rush or passing yards for 30 touchdowns, 4 picks, 918 rushing yards. He's almost at 1,000. Like, there's a very good chance that he ends with like 3,800 passing yards and 1,200 yards rushing. Because Georgia State and Texas A&M. Gosh, that guy's crazy. Florida offensively played all right. Graham Mertz 300 yards. Tough when you run into Jaden Daniels and he does Jaden Daniels things. What are you gonna do?
Quick side note about Graham Mertz. I believe he has another year of eligibility. I would love to see him come back. I really would, and I did not think I'd be saying that. I do think, like, obviously DJ Lagway, if you're plugged into recruiting, like he's a prize recruit from Florida. That's a big deal for Billy Napier. And
So you mean you're talking about Graham Mertz? You want him to come back?
Yeah, I'd love for Graham Mertz to come back.
Okay, you said Jaden Daniels. Sorry. I was just
confirming. My apologies. I would love if Daniels had another year. I'd obviously love that as a college football fan. But no, Graham Mertz, I'm talking about for Florida to come back another year and run it back, give Lagway a year to develop, and because he's been like he has not been the problem this year, and like we had lower expectations on everybody else than Florida, but obviously it's been a disappointing year after the start that they could have had, and getting kind of overinflated by beating Tennessee, who turned out to not be very good. But we also talked about that too.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Graham Mertz, he's been good this year. He's been good. Let's talk about Texas TCU. Texas 29, TCU 26. Until the 4th quarter, that game was not close. TCU scored 20 points in the 4th quarter, 3 touchdowns in the last 3 possessions. And they scored their last touchdown with about 3.5 minutes to go, but then Texas did a good job running the clock out. Unfortunately, Jonathan Brooks, ACL teared, out for the rest of the remainder of the year, of course. and potentially jeopardizing his draft stock as well. Because I know he's going to be highly sought after in the NFL draft, whether it's day one, day two, likely day two pick. But that's a big loss for Texas. That's a big loss for Texas. This is Quinn Ewers' first game back from injury. I mean, I didn't think he was anything special. I thought he was good. I thought Malik Murphy could have done what he did, but
I do think I do think he was better than Murphy. I do think he was better than Murphy. No, I'm a little disappointed on that secondary and the defense in the fourth quarter collapse, which we've seen multiple times by Texas now. Now, luckily, they've come back to bite them, right? Like they've still been winning these games, and at the end of the year, like bottom line is Texas wins out. They probably make it all the way. But yeah, I don't know. I just think there's something's weird about this defense secondary, and then like the offense, like it, not that it gets complacent, whatever, but like
stalled
without
out in the
Jonathan
second half.
Brooks, yeah, like you'd like to be able to just pound the ball. And you look at the numbers, you feel like they did the average 4 yards a carry. Like Jonathan Brooks got his before he got hurt. CJ Baxter came in and still has success. But I don't know. It's definitely unfortunate. But yeah, obviously Brooks is a big loss. But they have depth there as well.
So I mean, also credit Josh Hoover. He had another really good game. I guess they've had the wrong starting quarterback there all year.
That's TCU's MO, right?
Yeah, just bring in Chandler Morris as backup. Just bring him in. He will win more games than Chandler Morris.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do next year is if Morris gets to start week 1, I'm just gonna buy the whoever the backup quarterback is for Heisman, and just
give me his
dart
stock.
at it.
Air Force Hawaii, Air Force 13 Hawaii 27. Gosh, and a shocker, right? Air Force's second straight loss after starting 8-0. Their first loss,
embarrassing loss. Teams
their first
to bad football teams.
Yeah, their first loss in Mountain West play. It seems like Air Force is skidding here, which all of a sudden makes the Mountain West wide open, like wide open. I mean, right?
The thing is, like they still control their destiny and whatever. Like they can still win out, whatever. But the question is, like, will they win out now?
Can they? Yeah, can they?
They have UNLV and then obviously at Boise State, who are what's going to be an head coach. Yeah, but those like UNLV is playing good football right now, and is probably playing better than anybody in Mountain West right now. If you think maybe then in San Jose State, but yeah, I don't know. It's just weird to see Air Force like this.
Yeah, 2 straight wins though for Hawaii, so nice for them. Because they're Hawaii, they also of course get the 13 game schedule, so they'll play Wyoming and Colorado State left. Maybe they can pull one off against Colorado State and 5-8. I don't know. It's interesting what they've done there. I think they've done a good job there. I think they've done a good job. But yeah, wide open Mountain West now.
They have a nice win. They beat New Mexico State. Now that just tells you how bad this like Conference USA is. But
yeah. Let's move over to the ACC though. North Carolina sweating one out with Duke. Sweating one out. They needed a game-tying field goal. They needed a game-tying field goal to send it to overtime. But Griffin Loftus, Grayson Loftus, whatever his name is, stud third-string quarterback for Duke. Gosh, I'll tell you, the first couple quarters that I watched him play, especially when he played like Wake Forest, he did not look like a guy. He was not ready to play. But gets it done today. I mean,
everybody gets right against Gene Chizik.
Everyone gets right against Gene Chizik. Yeah, once again, Gene Chizik giving up another 40-point burger, which, yeah, smokes. Tough to see that for Duke, but of course, nothing for Duke to not be proud of, right? I mean, Mike Elko, the talent gap, their injuries, this should have been a no-brainer. This was a double-digit spread that Mike Elko not only covered, but almost won straight up. North Carolina squeaks out of there. They're still 4-2 in the ACC. Louisville's 6-1. Still likely not going to make the ACC championship, but I guess it's good for North Carolina to hit that 8-win marker. I mean, what do they got left? Clemson and NC State. At Clemson and NC State. Both those games are games that they could potentially lose. So, I don't know. I mean, Drake May, once again, just showing why he's like the guy coming back in a game
He's
like that on the line.
he's playing he's playing his way into, you know, first NFL pick. Like there's a real conversation right now with him and Caleb Williams, which the gap is smaller than it was in the offseason for sure.
Yeah, I'll agree. Let's go back to the Pac-12. Arizona State, UCLA. We talked about this a little bit. Colin Schley, like I know Ethan Garbers and Dante Moore were down, right? But we're like, well, Colin Schley, he has starting quarterback experience. He's won football games. Let's go. Let's get him in a Chip Kelly offense. Nope, did not happen. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't throw the ball. And Arizona State couldn't do those things either, but found a way to put up 17. Beat UCLA 17-10 or 17-7. That is embarrassing. This is an embarrassing loss for UCLA. A team that
Without a doubt.
a lot of people at Star Course to win the Pac-12. They were in competitive games with some really good teams. This was a bad loss. Good work for Kenny Dillingham and these boys rallying what little troops they have left on the road, going to the Rose Bowl and getting the win. Double-digit favorite. Yeah. UCLA was 16.5, 17, wherever that line closed. 14.5, I think is where it actually closed. Whatever. Gosh, brutal.
To me, this is more about, well, first of all, credit Kenny Dillingham and like his guys and the team there for not quitting, right? Keep continuing to grind out a season, which I know has been brutal, and it doesn't get any easier as you probably play the two hottest teams in Pac-12, Oregon and Arizona, the next 2 weeks. But like, this is about UCLA, and yes, fine, you're missing Dante Moore, you're missing Garbers. It doesn't matter. You're at home. You have an elite defense, and you're playing a bad football team that's injured. You should be able to run the ball and play good defense and win by 10 points. Like, whatever. It doesn't have to look pretty, but you should be able to get this job done. And like, to me, that is very frustrating, right? In year 5 of Chip Kelly or whatever it is right now. Like, Colin Schley, say what you want, limited arm talent or accuracy issues, but like, he's a good rusher. He can run the football, and like, you have 2 running backs, Harden and Steele, that should be able to get done.
Still
along with
averaging
Schley.
3 yards a carry. He's a good running
Yikes.
back.
Yeah.
Yikes is right.
And like, yeah, like this UCLA offensive line, which we thought was going to be, a bright spot for them, plug and play some transfers, like, bad. And like, at least, like, it should be like your classic Big Ten West Minnesota offense, like, run the football 45 times, 50 times, and then pass the ball 13 times and hit a couple deep shots. Draw some pass interferences. Like the talent gap here is pretty significant, and like, yikes.
Yeah, and like, all of a sudden, so the remainder of Cal's schedule, right? Cal is Stanford. They're 4-6, by the way. They've Stanford, which I think they can beat. Anyone can beat Stanford. They'd be 6-5 there. And then the UCLA that last week. Cal, I think, has a legit chance to beat UCLA if they don't get healthy at the quarterback position.
Yeah, and make a bowl game and hit their over.
UCLA could very well end the season 6-6, which I think would be a gigantic disappointment. For a team's over-under win total was at 8.5. The expectations were high. Is this the year they take the leap and maybe have a shot to win a couple games, have the tiebreaker over a certain team, make the Pac-12 championship? No, this is not the year. This is not the year.
Yeah, and also like they had the one schedule of all the, blue bloods or the top teams in the Pac-12. Like, their schedule was by far the easiest.
Yes,
by far in the preseason. Right, I get it. Arizona's better than we thought they were.
You played Stanford, you played Cal,
whatever.
You played Washington State at home.
Arizona
Colorado,
State.
Both Arizona schools. You missed Oregon, you missed Washington.
Yeah. And they have not taken advantage.
Nope, not at all. Let's move over to the Mountain West again. Boise State 42, New Mexico 14. Not much to say about the game itself, but Andy Avalos dismissed from the team. 20-13 record since he was there. That is more losses than Chris Peterson had his entire tenure at Boise State, by the way, for those of you that did not know. So the standard is high there, right? He didn't have a whole lot of time. You could say, oh, he needed more time. The standard is very high there. And there's talent there to win. there's money there to win, and you're in the Mountain West. You should be able to win. But the thing is, though, is like they fire because I think this decision was made before the game, right? But because of Fresno State's loss, right, and because of Air Force's loss, like Boise State's still in it to win the Mountain West right now. They're
It's
sitting at
just
4-2, one game behind UNLV and Air Force.
how many times you see an interim head coach in the conference championship game because of like a firing, and it's not because of right like cause, it's fired because of
Be a first for me.
performance. Yeah, and I think
It
it
would be a
speaks more
first
to
for
the
me.
Mountain West, and it's more like, and I don't think it happens. I think Fresno State, Air Force, or UNLV, one of them, two of them will get right and like they'll figure it out. But to me, like the big story here is like, what do you like? This is a pretty good job. This is a pretty good job. You got some like candidates, obviously, but like Gatlin Bear, right? The high 4-star, top 40 player in the country, speedster wide receiver. Everyone knows him from his track videos. That guy's a good wide receiver. He's committed to Boise State. Like this, that was a big win, a huge win for Boise State and over guys like Michigan and Bama and Oregon. And now what do you do with where does he go? Obviously, he was a guy that Boise State fans were really interested about. And like coaching change obviously plays an impact on a recruit's decision.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I would find it hilarious if Boise State won the Mountain West. I would find it
Oh,
genuinely hilarious. Hilarious. But yeah, it seems like they're still running kind of like that two quarterback system, but it doesn't matter if they run the ball like 6 yards a clip with George Alani and
Bra.
so yeah, whatever. I mean, good win for them. They stay fighting. Hopefully they get bowl eligible. Their remaining schedule: Utah State and then Air Force. Which, by the way, if they win that game against Air Force and Utah State, they will have the tiebreaker over Air Force. And then all of a sudden, Boise State's looking pretty. And that game is in
Yep.
Boise, by the way, just so you guys know. Next game, let's stay in the Mountain West again. A lot of Mountain West we're talking. A lot of Mountain West. Reason being because it's so crazy. Fresno State, hey, San Jose State. This line I thought was crazy. San Jose State was favored by 2 points. I was like, that's pretty wild. I'm gonna stay away because it's late night Mountain West at home. San Jose State's at home. Uh, yeah, they blew them out, 42-18. This was brutal. This was brutal. Uh, Cordero, Chevron Cordero,
Chevron.
efficient, I guess. One with his touchdowns, he's 9 for 18, like 146 yards, 3 touchdowns. But Kerry Robinson, have a day, kid. 200 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, that'll get it done.
10 yards of carry. Yikes.
That'll get it done. So lucky for Fresno State, their remaining schedule is New Mexico and at San Diego State. Not exactly daunting. Those are, I believe, the 2 worst teams in the Mountain West.
That sounds about
Standings
right.
wise, both 1-5. So
The
good
thing
news
with
for
San Jose
right.
State, we talked about them early in the year, and they're gonna go all likelihood they're gonna go bowling. They could hopefully got to go 1-1 the rest of the way. Like they were your classic team that played a really tough out of conference schedule,
Really
right?
tough.
And they opened with 2 of the top teams in the Mountain West, right? Or at least at that time. And since then, they have been on a tear. They've been playing really good football, and like it's just schedule dynamics. And like Fresno State, unfortunately, like well, yeah, they lost to a 4-5 team, but no, San Jose State was much better than that.
Yeah, out of conference. And we talked about this before, by the way, with San Jose State. USC to open, Oregon State, and then you play Cal Poly, sure, get a win. And then Toledo, who, by the way, is the best MAC team, a team that is competing for a potential chance at a New Year's Six bowl. Like
That's a good team. That's a really good football
they're
team.
dominating the MAC right now, dominating the MAC, and that's also a team that was like 1 play away from beating Illinois. So, Power 5 team. So the San Jose State team, it's not bad. It's not a bad team. They're a little frisky
They
right now.
they also lost Air Force being the year, but that was also like Air Force was healthy. Their quarterback was healthy. Like the Air Force team right now
Yep.
is a different team than it was, back in September and early October.
Yeah. And Boise State, they lose to them on the road early in the year. So now they're on a tear. 4-game win streak. Good for them. Back to the Pac-12, Oregon, USC. I mean, Oregon won by 9. I thought Oregon controlled the game the entire way.
Yeah.
Sure, Caleb Williams played well, but Oregon was a little too much. This is the best team in the Pac-12, I think.
Yeah,
I know they
without a
lost
doubt.
to Washington. I get it. They played head to head, but Oregon right now, I test. Give me Oregon against Washington. Sorry.
Yeah, this result doesn't really shock me. The backdoor cover was always a possibility with USC and Caleb Williams. But yeah, like you said, Oregon controlled this game top to bottom. Super impressed with them right now. Like they're just really good. They are really, really good right now. And they're gonna have a chance to make the playoffs if they, beat obviously everyone's looking at that Washington game down the line, probably gonna beat in Vegas, but who knows what can happen next 2 weeks. But yeah, good for Bo Nix, good for Oregon, Dan Lanning, obviously, future A&M head coach.
Oh man, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me.
I'm kidding.
I don't know. I was. We can take a quick break and talk about it because we're talking about A&M next. I don't know if I see Dan Lanning leaving Oregon. I mean, it would be definitely a slam dunk hire for A&M. I just I I can understand why he might come, but at the same time, dude, he's got it pretty good. He's locked in. Like he can win a national championship at Oregon. You know,
Yeah,
like Brian Kelly on one hand thought that he thought that there was a ceiling, and he thought he reached that ceiling with Notre Dame, and he was going to chase the paycheck and larger boosters, less recruiting restrictions, less academic standards. It's easier to win there.
yeah,
Oregon
and the
doesn't.
money's
Dan
good.
Lanning doesn't have to at Oregon or A&M. Dan Lanning doesn't have to worry about any of that. So potential. So last game we'll talk about A&M Mississippi State. The reason I talk about this game, Jimbo Fisher of course fired. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. A&M put up 51. Jalen Henderson started this game. Max Johnson being hurt. Connor Wigman, of course, out for season earlier this year when they played Auburn. He played a good game. Didn't really show a lot of accuracy when he was throwing balls. He was effective on the ground specifically. They had a good game plan for him going into this game. They knew what they were going to do, how to use him. But it's mostly confirmed that Mississippi State stinks. More so than A&M is good. Like Mississippi State is not a good football team. And it's a bummer because I like Zach Arnett. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. I think it's hard to win in Mississippi State. It's very hard to win in Mississippi State. So they lost a lot of guys last year via NFL. And, of course, Will Rogers getting hurt was pretty tough on them as well. Not sure if Zach Arnett stays. Mississippi State. Not sure he stays for them.
Tough position. Tough. The difference is like Mississippi State is hard to buy out. It's harder to buy out a coach there than it is at A&M, even though A&M's buyout's a lot bigger, right? Like it's hard. Like yes, like a lot of times we see these ungodly numbers and these like athletic departments and all these new stadiums and coaching salaries and whatever else. Like, but about like there are people that have to pay for these things and like people that make decisions about the bottom line, and like that's what college athletic departments are. Like, let's be real, they're a business, like to make money. And I don't know. Obviously I'm not rooting for a guy to get fired. And I like Zach Arnett and I hope he figures it out there, but I don't know how quickly that's gonna happen.
It's a $9 million buyout. I think Mississippi State could pony that up. I think they could. If they see a guy
Then you
like
also
this coaching carousel gets crazy enough and they see a guy, I don't think they want to miss this opportunity, right? I don't think they want to miss this opportunity. I think there could be some crazy movement here.
about Bobby
I
Petrino. Get him back in a
Yeah,
head coach
honestly,
in the
like
SEC West.
that's not crazy. Like when he gets, that's not
He did
crazy at all.
he did his rehab stint at A&M. He Missouri State.
I
He's the,
I I do not hate that hire at all. I think would be a home run hire for Mississippi State. As
yeah, purely
controversial as
like on
that
the field.
sounds, as controversial
I
as
mean,
that sounds, I'm sure Mississippi State fans wouldn't be happy with it, but I think they would come to appreciate it.
he's Dan Mullen with baggage. Like, and Dan Mullen did a lot at
Yeah,
at Mississippi State.
I agree.